I'm a 28-year-old woman, and until recently, I thought I had a pretty good relationship with my family. We weren't perfect, but we were close. Or so I thought. It all started with my older brother's wedding, and now I'm labeled as the family's black sheep. Let me take you through this mess. My brother, let's call him Derek, is 32. He's always been the golden child in our family, successful career, charming personality, and now, about to get married to his girlfriend of 3 years, Carol, 30. I was genuinely happy for them when they announced their engagement 6 months ago. Carol seemed nice enough, although I didn't know her that well. We'd met a few times at family gatherings, and while we weren't close, I thought we got along fine. Our family isn't huge, but we're tight-knit. There's me, Derek, our younger sister Tracy, 25, and our parents. We grew up in a small town, and our extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, all live nearby. Family has always been a big deal for us, especially for our mom. She's the type who wants everyone together for every holiday, birthday, and special occasion. Dad's more laid back, but he goes along with whatever mom wants. When Derek and Carol got engaged, Mom went into full wedding planning mode. You'd think it was her wedding, not theirs. Carol seemed okay with it at first, probably because she didn't want to upset her future mother-in-law. But looking back, I can see the signs of trouble brewing. About 4 months before the wedding, Derek called me. He sounded excited, and I thought he was just calling to chat about wedding plans. But then he said he wanted me to be a bridesmaid. I was surprised because Carol and I weren't that close, but I figured she was trying to include me as family. I agreed, feeling honored and looking forward to being part of their special day. That's when things started to go downhill. Fast. The first red flag was the bridesmaid dress fitting. Carol had chosen these horrible, puffy, bright orange dresses that looked like something out of a bad 80s prom movie. When I gently suggested that maybe we could look at some other options, Carol burst into tears. She accused me of trying to ruin her perfect day and ran out of the bridal shop. Derek called me later that night, asking why I had upset Carol. I tried to explain, but he wouldn't listen. He just told me to apologize and go along with whatever Carol wanted. I swallowed my pride and apologized, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. I thought that would be the end of it, but oh boy, was I wrong. The next issue came up during the bridal shower planning. As a bridesmaid, I was expected to help with the preparations. Carol had this elaborate vision of a Great Gatsby-themed party, complete with a champagne fountain, live jazz band, and vintage cars for photo ops. The cost was astronomical. When I brought up concerns about the budget, suggesting we could still have a beautiful party without breaking the bank, Carol lost it again. She screamed at me, saying I was jealous of her and trying to sabotage her shower. She then demanded that I contribute $2,000 towards the party expenses. I was shocked. That was way more than I could afford, especially with all the other wedding expenses piling up. When I told her I couldn't pay that much, she called me selfish and cheap. The situation escalated quickly. Carol told Derek that I was being difficult and trying to ruin everything. Derek, instead of talking to me directly, told our parents. Soon, I was getting calls and texts from Mom, Dad, and even our aunts, all telling me to just do what Carol wanted and stop causing problems. I felt like I was going crazy. How was I the bad guy here? I tried to explain my side, but no one wanted to listen. They all kept saying, "It's just one day, and can't you do this for your brother?" But it wasn't just one day. It was months of stress, unreasonable demands, and financial strain. The final straw came about 6 weeks before the wedding. Carol decided that all the bridesmaids needed to lose weight to fit into the dresses she had chosen. She set up a group chat and started sending us daily workout routines and diet plans. She even suggested we all get small cosmetic procedures done, like Botox and lip fillers, to look perfect for her wedding photos. I was furious. This was body shaming, plain and simple. I told Carol that I wouldn't be changing my body for her wedding and that her demands were inappropriate and harmful. She went ballistic. She kicked me out of the bridal party, calling me fat, ugly, and a terrible sister-in-law. I was hurt and angry, but also relieved to be out of the bridal party. However, the family drama was far from over. Derek called me, yelling about how I had ruined everything and demanding that I apologize to Carol and beg to be let back into the bridal party. When I refused, he told me I was no longer welcome at the wedding. I was heartbroken. Not just because I was uninvited from my own brother's wedding, but because my entire family seemed to have turned against me. Mom and Dad were furious, saying I was tearing the family apart with my selfishness. Tracy, who was still a bridesmaid, told me I should have just gone along with everything to keep the peace. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a nightmare. I was excluded from all family events and conversations. My phone was flooded with messages from relatives, some begging me to apologize, others berating me for being difficult. I felt isolated and betrayed. The day of the wedding came, and I spent it alone in my apartment, scrolling through social media and seeing all the happy photos of my family celebrating without me. It hurt more than I can express. I cried, I screamed into my pillow, I even considered showing up at the venue to confront them all. But in the end, I stayed home, feeling like an outcast from my own family. The day after the wedding, I woke up to a barrage of angry messages. Apparently, my absence had been the talk of the wedding. Carol had told everyone that I had tried to sabotage her big day out of jealousy, and that I had said horrible things about her. None of it was true, but it didn't matter. In the eyes of my family, I was now the villain. I tried to defend myself, to explain what really happened, but no one wanted to listen. Derek told me he needed time away from me to heal from what I'd done. Mom said she was ashamed of me. Dad, who had always been my friend, just sighed and said he was disappointed. It's been 2 weeks since the wedding, and I feel like I'm living in a bizarre alternate reality. How did standing up for myself turn me into the family pariah? I've always been close with my family. Now, I'm the black sheep, the one they whisper about and avoid. I'm hurt, angry, and confused. For now, I'm taking some time for myself. I've muted the family group chats and I'm not responding to the guilt-tripping messages. I need to figure out where I go from here, how I navigate this new family dynamic where I'm suddenly the outsider. I never imagined a wedding could tear a family apart like this. I always thought blood was thicker than water, but now I'm not so sure. All I know is that I'm not the same person I was before this all started, and my relationship with my family will never be the same either. Update 1. I want to start by thanking everyone who took the time to read and respond to my story. The support and validation I've received from this community have been overwhelming and incredibly helpful during this difficult time. Many of you pointed out that Carol's behavior was not just bridezilla antics, but bordered on abusive. The comments about her body shaming and unreasonable financial demands really opened my eyes to how toxic the situation had become. I realize now that I wasn't overreacting. If anything, I probably should have stood up for myself sooner. A lot of you also expressed concern about my sister Tracy and how she's coping with all of this. Your comments made me realize that I needed to reach out to her, which I'll get to in a moment. Thank you all again for your support and advice. It means more than you know. Now, let me update you on what's been happening since my last post. It's been about a month since my last post, and things have only gotten more complicated. I thought that maybe, with some time and distance, my family would calm down and be willing to hear my side of the story. I was wrong. About 2 weeks after the wedding, my mom called me. For a moment, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe she was ready to listen, to understand. But as soon as I answered, I knew that wasn't the case. She wasn't calling to reconcile, she was calling to demand that I apologize to Derek and Carol. According to Mom, Carol was devastated by my absence at the wedding. She said that Carol cried during the reception because her sister wasn't there. I nearly choked when I heard that. Carol and I were never close, and she certainly never considered me a sister before. It was clear that she was playing the victim, and my family was eating it up. Mom went on to say that Derek and Carol were planning to start trying for a baby soon, and that if I didn't make things right, I might not be allowed to be part of my future niece or nephew's life. She actually said, "Do you want to be the aunt that the kids never meet because she was too stubborn to apologize?" I was speechless. I couldn't believe my own mother was using potential future grandchildren as emotional blackmail. When I finally found my voice, I told her that I had nothing to apologize for. I hadn't done anything wrong. I had simply stood up for myself against Carol's unreasonable and often cruel demands. Mom's response? Sometimes we have to apologize even when we don't think we're wrong, for the sake of family harmony. I ended the call soon after that, feeling drained and even more hurt than before. It was becoming clear that in my family's eyes, harmony meant everyone bowing to Derek and Carol's wishes, no matter how unreasonable. The next day, I received a long email from Derek. I thought, finally, maybe he's ready to hear me out. But as I read, my heart sank. The email was pages long, detailing every perceived slight and offense I had committed, not just during the wedding planning, but apparently throughout our entire lives. He accused me of always being jealous of him, of trying to steal the spotlight. He brought up incidents from our childhood, twisting them to paint me as the villain. According to Derek, I had always been selfish and difficult, and my behavior during the wedding planning was just the last straw. What hurt the most was how he described our relationship. He wrote about how he had always tolerated me, how he had put up with my presence at family events. Reading those words, I felt like my entire childhood was being rewritten. Had he always felt this way? Had our sibling bond been a lie? I didn't respond to the email. I couldn't. Every word felt like a knife to my heart, and I knew that anything I said would just be twisted and used against me. A few days later, I ran into my sister Tracy at the grocery store. It was awkward, to say the least. She looked uncomfortable, like she didn't know whether to hug me or run away. We made small talk for a few minutes, dancing around the elephant in the room. Finally, I asked her how she was really doing. Tracy broke down right there in the middle of the produce section. Through her tears, she told me that she felt caught in the middle. She said she knew that Carol's demands had been out of line, but she didn't want to rock the boat. She admitted that being a bridesmaid had been a nightmare, with Carol micromanaging everything from their diets to their social media posts. I asked Tracy why she hadn't spoken up, why she had let me take all the blame. Her response was telling. I was scared. I didn't want to end up like you, cut off from everyone. We talked for a while longer, and I could see the guilt eating away at her. Before we parted, I told her that I didn't blame her, that I understood the pressure she was under. I also told her that she could always come to me if she needed support. The encounter with Tracy left me with a lot to think about. It was clear that the family dynamics were more toxic than I had realized. Carol's behavior had exposed cracks that had probably been there all along, hidden beneath the surface of our happy family. I decided to reach out to a therapist. I needed another perspective. While Reddit has been amazing to me, there are a bunch of people calling me a doormat and other mean things, someone who could help me navigate these choppy emotional waters. In our first session, the therapist suggested that I might be dealing with a family system that prioritized the appearance of harmony over actual healthy relationships. She also pointed out that my brother's email sounded like classic projection and gaslighting. By accusing me of jealousy and spotlight stealing, he might actually be revealing his own insecurities and issues. As for my parents, the therapist suggested that their behavior might stem from a deep-seated fear of conflict and change. By pressuring me to apologize and fall in line, they were trying to restore the status quo, even if that status quo was unhealthy. It was a lot to process, but it also felt liberating to have someone validate my feelings and experiences. For the first time in a month, I felt like I wasn't crazy, like my perspective mattered. The therapist recommended that I maintain firm boundaries with my family while I worked through my feelings. She suggested writing letters to each family member, not to send, but as a way of expressing my thoughts and emotions in a safe space. I took her advice, and over the next week, I wrote letters to Derek, Carol, my parents, and Tracy. I poured out everything I had been feeling. After writing the letters, I made a decision. I wasn't going to keep chasing after my family's approval. I wasn't going to apologize for standing up for myself. And I wasn't going to let their twisted version of events become my reality. I decided to take a step back from all family interactions for a while. I needed time and space to heal, to rebuild my self-esteem, and to figure out what kind of relationship, if any, I wanted with my family in the future. It wasn't an easy decision. The thought of distancing myself from my family, even temporarily, was scary. But as I reflected on the events of the past few months, I realized that staying in close contact was doing more harm than good. Every interaction left me feeling drained, hurt, and questioning my own worth. So, I sent a brief message to my parents, Derek, and Tracy. I told them that I needed some time away from family interactions to focus on my mental health. I said that I loved them, but that the current situation was too painful and that I needed space to heal. The responses were mixed. Mom sent a long, guilt-tripping message about how I was breaking her heart. Dad simply replied okay. Tracy sent a supportive message, saying she understood and respected my decision. Derek and Carol didn't respond at all. It's been a week since I sent that message, and I won't lie, it's been tough. There are moments when I question my decision, when I'm tempted to call Mom or text Derek and try to smooth things over. But then I remember the hurtful words, the unfair accusations, the way they all turned against me, and I know I'm doing the right thing for myself. I'm focusing on self-care now. It's a journey, and I know it won't be easy. There will be more family events that I'll miss, more occasions where my absence will be noted and probably gossiped about. But for now, this is what I need to do to protect my mental health and rebuild my sense of self. Update 2. It's been 3 months since my last update. A lot has happened, and I'm still processing it all. First, the good news, the time and space I've taken for myself have been incredibly healing. My therapist was right, setting boundaries and focusing on self-care has done wonders for my mental health. But of course, family matters are never simple, and there have been plenty of complications along the way. About a month after my last update, my sister Tracy reached out to me. She was in tears, saying she couldn't take the family drama anymore. Apparently, since I'd stepped back, she'd become the new target for Carol's demands and our parents' expectations. She told me that Carol was now pressuring her to be a bridesmaid for her friend's upcoming wedding, claiming it would be the ultimate act of sisterly love and a way to make up for my absence at their wedding. I was shocked. Tracy has always been clear about not wanting to be involved in big social events, especially after the stress of Derek and Carol's wedding. The fact that Carol would try to manipulate her into this, and that our family was supporting the idea, was mind-boggling. Tracy asked if she could stay with me for a while, just to get away from the pressure. I agreed, of course. Living together, we've had many conversations about our childhood, our family, and the events surrounding the wedding. Tracy admitted that she had always felt overshadowed by Derek and me, Derek for being the golden child, and me for being the rebel who stood up to our parents. She confessed that part of the reason she went along with Carol's demands was that she finally felt seen by the family. It's been eye-opening to hear Tracy's perspective. I realized that in my own hurt and anger, I hadn't fully considered how the family dynamics had affected her. We've cried together, laughed together, and started to heal our relationship. It's not perfect, but it's a start. Meanwhile, the rest of the family has not taken Tracy's defection well. Mom has been calling and texting non-stop, alternating between guilt-tripping and anger. Dad, who had been mostly silent before, has now started leaving voicemails demanding that we stop this nonsense and come home. Derek and Carol's response has been the most surprising. Instead of trying to make amends or understand our perspective, they've doubled down on their narrative of us being the villains. They've started a smear campaign of sorts, telling extended family and mutual friends that Tracy and I are mentally unstable and have abandoned the family. I was tempted to respond publicly, to tell my side of the story. But my therapist advised against it, saying it would only escalate the situation. One particularly difficult moment came when our aunt, Mom's sister, reached out to me. She said she had noticed something was wrong at the wedding and wanted to hear my side of the story. To my surprise, she listened without judgment and even shared some of her own experiences with our mother's controlling behavior. She told me that she was proud of me for standing up for myself, even though it cost me my relationship with the family. It was the first time anyone from the family had validated my feelings, and I broke down crying on the phone with her. This conversation with my aunt made me realize that there might be other family members who see through the facade, who understand that something isn't right. It gave me a glimmer of hope that maybe, over time, more of the truth will come out. Final update: it's been a year since the wedding that changed everything, and I'm sitting here, reflecting on how much has changed, and how much I've changed. First, the big news: Tracy and I moved. We packed up our lives and relocated to a city on the other side of the country. It was a scary decision, but it's turned out to be one of the best choices we've ever made. We're building new lives, free from the weight of family expectations and small-town gossip. Tracy has started a new career in graphic design, something she's always been passionate about but never pursued because our parents didn't see it as a real job. She's thriving, and it's beautiful to see her confidence grow day by day. Now, for the family situation. It's complicated. Derek and Carol had their baby 6 months ago. We found out through a mass email announcement. The message was cold and formal, like a business notification rather than a birth announcement. There was no acknowledgement of the family rift, no olive branch extended. Just a statement of fact: they had a son, here's his name and birth stats. I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt. Despite everything, a part of me had hoped that becoming parents might soften them, might make them realize the importance of family. But it seems they're still clinging to their narrative of us as the villains in their story. Mom and Dad's reaction to our move was predictable. There were tears, accusations of abandonment, threats to disinherit us. But underneath the drama, I sensed a hint of fear. I think they're finally realizing that their actions have consequences, that they can't control us anymore. We've maintained minimal contact with our parents. We send cards for major holidays and their birthdays, but we don't call or visit. It's a boundary we've set for our own mental health, and we're sticking to it. The extended family has been a mixed bag. Some have chosen to believe Derek and Carol's version of events and have cut us off. Some supported us. My aunt, the one who first reached out to me after the wedding, has become an unexpected source of support. She calls regularly to check in on us, and she's even visited us in our new city. Through her, we've been able to maintain connections with the parts of our family that matter to us. One surprising development came about 3 months ago. My cousin, Dad's sister's son, called me out of the blue. He was planning his own wedding and was feeling pressured by the family to invite Derek and Carol. He wanted to know the real story behind everything. I was cautious at first, but I decided to be honest with him. I told him everything: Carol's unreasonable demands, Derek's gaslighting, our parents' enabling behavior. To my surprise, he believed me. He said he'd always sensed something was off about Derek and Carol, but he couldn't put his finger on it. This conversation led to a mini family rebellion of sorts. My cousin decided not to invite Derek and Carol to his wedding, which caused quite an uproar. But it also led to more family members reaching out to Tracy and me, wanting to hear our side of the story. It's bittersweet. On one hand, it feels vindicating to have more people understand the truth. On the other hand, it's reopened some old wounds and brought back painful memories. Through it all, therapy has been my lifeline. As for the future, Tracy and I are focusing on building our lives in another city. We've made wonderful friends in our new city, people who accept us as we are and support our journey. We're creating new traditions, celebrating holidays in ways that feel authentic to us. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe someday, there will be a reconciliation with my family. Maybe Derek and Carol will realize the harm they've caused and make amends. Maybe my parents will acknowledge their part in the dysfunction and seek to change. But I'm no longer pinning my happiness on those maybes. I'm living my life, on my terms, surrounded by people who love and support me for who I truly am. And that, I've realized, is the greatest gift I could have given myself. I'm looking forward to the future with hope and excitement. I don't know where this journey will take me next, but I know I'll face it with strength, self-respect, and the unwavering support of the family I've chosen. And really, what more could I ask for?